Hello and welcome back to the Advancing Healthcare Innovation Show. I am your host, Michael Stamatinos. And if you're new to us, we're super excited to have you here because we are having some just very exciting conversations with some fabulous leaders that are painstakingly reshaping the future of healthcare. We're really passionate about a few different areas. We're passionate about healthcare innovation, adoption of these innovations, access, and leadership. And if it's your first time tuning in, let me just take a quick step back and tell you a little bit more about what we're trying to do here. So, our focus is on bringing real stories of innovation to life, not just talking about the theoretical things, but talking about the things that are actually working in the field. And it's about highlighting real people that are getting stuff done and giving them the opportunity and the space to share their story with our community and ultimately with the world. We've got an amazing action-packed year with some incredible speakers that are coming on. So if you haven't had the opportunity, wherever you are, however you're consuming this, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, hit the subscribe button now so that any new interviews come directly to you. So today's guest has spent the last 25 years doing what most only actually talk about, helping bold ideas actually cross the finish line. So Greg Downey is the managing director of Purim Ventures, where he works at the intersection of capital, commercialization, and conviction. His fingerprints are on more than 550 million in private financings, hundreds of millions in revenue, and a string of exits and IPOs that have shaped how healthcare technology show up in the real world. So Greg's journey started at Johnson & Johnson, helping launch what would become the global leader in minimally invasive women's health. From there, he held a wide range of key leadership roles, each one of which was a masterclass in market timing, capital, strategy, and knowing how to turn vision into value. So he didn't stop there. Greg co-founded OrthoPediatrics, where he helped craft the brand, raise capital, build strategic alliances, and ultimately took the company public in 2017. That IPO, one of the top 10 performers of the year. So today, through Purim Ventures and the Capital Mastermind, Greg works with founders and family offices to unlock scale, sharpen positioning, and master the capital game. So his clients have secured over 1 billion in term sheets. Yes, B with a billion. And the work continues. So Greg serves on multiple boards, advises companies that are transforming the care for our nation's veterans, and continues to be a trusted partner to those building what's next. So, Greg, it's great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the incredible introduction, man. I'm gonna have to hire you onto my marketing team.
Hey, you know what? I've been known to be a fairly decent hype man. So, look, just kind of before we get into your journey, let's sort of start in the margins. I mean, what's something that most people misunderstand about you?
Um, I'm not as intense as I look, I guess. I know maybe I am, but I'm not. I'm a girl dad, so I've definitely a soft spot for girls. So, um, yeah, I guess I've been trained in mixed martial arts my whole life. So I'm a protector. I don't go looking for fights, but
Mm.
sometimes I look like I do if I especially put on a hoodie and walk in dark alleys. But I'm actually a pretty nice guy.
All right, so you've built and backed some of the most successful healthcare companies that we really kind of hear about in mainstream headlines. But I kind of want to rewind the tape a little bit. Take us back to maybe the moment that you first realized that you had a gift for building momentum. What was that early spark?
Gosh, I guess is really when I first started in my medical device career with Johnson and Johnson.
Hmm.
So I was very fortunate. I was very persistent, by the way, to get a job, to leapfrog what normally would take someone, 10 years of drudgery and sales to get into medical sales. But so I was really persistent with a particular recruiter and then a
Hmm.
manager at J&J. But it was, I was thrown into this environment where it was a new company within the safety and umbrella of a major corporation, a Fortune 15
Yeah.
company, Fortune 50. Um, but it was new innovation, right? So that was exciting. But when we went to market and I had my territory. So start as a sales guy was I made my own marketing. Like, because we had, you have the clinical papers, you have all the stuff you have to read up on, you have your one pagers that has all
Right.
the cool marketing stuff on one side, the back side has all the, the data and contraindications and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And had the vision of going, well, you got to combine these two units. One was for intrauterine pathology, and the other one was
Hmm.
for menorrhagia. So you can't do the balloon menorrhagia treatment if you have pathology. So I sold them as a workstation. So I literally went to
Mm.
Kinko's. So I'm 51, so I'm definitely dating myself because I didn't have Photoshop. So literally went to Kinko's, cut the pictures out, put them onto a sheet of paper, and then photocopied it and then scanned it. And I took all the doctors I knew in my region that would apply to, loaded them into a fax machine and
You
hit,
did a fax blast.
yeah, so I fax blasted it. And so I sold it as one unit and then I took off like a rocket. I think it was the top sales guy in the country. And then my manager asked me how I did it, what was my strategy, and I showed him my marketing piece, and he's like, "Oh, this is great." And sent that to corporate. Then corporate calls me and going, "You can't do that. Like you can't like make your own marketing. We're Johnson and Johnson. Like you have to get approval."
Yeah.
So I got my hand slapped politely, and then they asked from there if I would turn it into a national sales program. Um, so I think I titled it "Aggressively Selling Capital." I think was the title, but so I turned in my own little program. So I think it was at that moment of going, okay, I can think like the guys that have been in corporate for 20, 30 years in marketing
Hmm.
and you want to think outside the box, right? Try not to do what
Yeah.
everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And
Be different.
yeah, be different. And so I just kind of would naturally gravitate towards these type of opportunities going, if you tell me no, I'll try to figure out a way to
Yeah.
figure it out, and there's always a way, so, try not to get fired by a company by, you know, upsetting the marketing department. But
Yeah.
that was, I think, the beginning of going, hey, I really like the innovation. I like the messaging. I like the strategy, the structure. Like, how do you do this stuff? So that was, and then every deal I got involved in differently, I would kind of push the limits on what you're able to do and just never look back.
From that example, if you were to kind of take that and extrapolate that out, what did you learn about scale in that aspect that most founders still miss?
Well, a couple things. And the companies that we deal with, right? Everybody wants to go big, and I've taken companies big that weren't ready for it, and that can blow the wheels off the car, and now you're in real trouble, right? It's with scale, you want to make sure you have the infrastructure in place. You've tested the waters. Like what we do now in the ventures that we're involved in is going, you can have an exit and not have to have national coverage, right? You
Right.
have to have market adoption. So when we commercialize these companies or help them get to that mark, we look for the key subject matter experts. We launch to them. Maybe
Hmm.
it's 10 doctors, get their feedback, get revenue, and then you could put a bow on the deal and shop it if you want to sell it. Most people want to go national right out of the gate. They want to hire all these distributors, and you could be spending, a lot of your time and effort recycling distributors. It's the 80-20 rule.
That's
20% are
right.
going to work. 80% you're going to have to recycle and get somebody else in place. So it's going, we do this when we work with a lot of our portfolio companies is going laser focus, find the key opinion leaders, work with them, take care of them, like
Hmm.
really take care of them because customer service today sucks for most companies. It's just you don't have to try too hard to be really good. So if you can serve them well and be dependable and deliver great product and answer phone calls, you'll stand out about everybody else. But stay focused on
That's
a
right.
small regional area versus trying to go national is and just but making sure you have a good team and good infrastructure in place that you can handle when things go crazy. When you get a lot of sales, it's a good thing, but not being able to fulfill those sales is a whole you now have angry customers. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah, there's a fine balance. I kind of want to look even to one of your other ventures, NoInk, that journey, from a mobile software company spun out of, was it Rose Hulman to being acquired by GHX. Like, it's not your typical tech story. Um, I'm sort of curious, what was the signal that you saw in that company that others kind of might have overlooked?
Well, it was new in the mobile computing space. So this would have been late 90s. It's late 90s, early
Yeah,
2000s. And it was with when I was still with Johnson and Johnson, and we were that's when the Palm Pilot came out.
yeah,
So I was trying to convince my manager of going, hey, look, if I have a day timer, remember
Mhm.
those things, the big notebooks? I left that on my car. I don't know how you load up your car with all your gear after surgery, and the day timer's on the roof of the car, and you drive off with it. I had maintenance guys call me a couple times, they're like, hey, your day timer is found on the ground. So I say, hey, if we have this handheld device, all this stuff will be backed up, problem solved. So it was still a novelty type device at the time. So, but I like the technology, as most people like new tech, right? So,
Mhm.
but when NoInk was a thing, we just had Medibuy was acquired, and then I was looking for the next thing. One of the guys I knew who worked with me at Medibuy, was a hire into this NoInk company.
Yeah.
He called me. He's like, "Hey man, you gotta check this thing out. They could probably use you." And I came and got to meet it. It's a small team. The guy who was financing it had a pretty decent track record, and
Hmm.
so that's where it started. But it's going. I liked the clean canvas, right? You had really
Yeah.
smart tech guys from Rolls-Holman, these young grads that I think one of them, like again, I won't say their names, but they were like hacking like big government agencies for fun. Like that's how they test things. It's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
not smart, but that's how what these guys do on their spare time.
Yeah.
So what these guys did was pretty impressive from writing software, both for the Palm Pilot and the iPad. The company originally, the business plan was, hey, we'll go to pharma because pharma reps need to have all this quick reference stuff. That didn't go well because pharma is a huge animal, and as a startup, you can
Yeah.
waste a lot of time and money trying to get into them. So what I saw was going, well, who carries a lot of inventory, who has a lot of expense, and who's close? I was in
Hmm.
Indiana at the time, so it's like, well, Warsaw, Indiana is the
Yeah.
orthopedic capital of the world. Let's go up there. And so I went up there and managed to get in the door with a couple places, and it's literally was showing up with a business card, with a little brochure, not knowing anybody, going to the secretary of these big corporations, going, "Hi, this is who I am. I'm from down south.
Hmm.
Would love to work." And did that over and over again, and they finally let me in. And the key thing was not trying to ram software down their throat because didn't exist. Like we're
Right.
literally selling vaporware, screenshots. It was proposing an assessment where it was a paid engagement, so we needed revenue, getting in, spending time with materials management, manufacturing, sales, marketing,
Yeah.
finance, and going, what are your problems? Like, what are the things that are driving you crazy?
Yeah.
Well, the reps leave $250,000 worth of stuff in their trunks. And when they leave the company, a lot of that stuff disappears. Okay, there's your value proposition. How do I
Hmm.
avoid? And if they're in
Yeah.
surgery, putting implants in, they're not taking good inventory. So I got to be able to bill people. So we built a billing app. So this is like well beyond. I think Salesforce was just getting started.
Yeah.
So that's what this company did. We did the assessment, figured out where their pain points were, but then
Hmm.
went back to the drawing table going, okay, then we need an app for that. We need an app for that. We need an app for that. And these guys literally were typing it up and coding. And we go back and show you screenshots, be like, is this about right? And click, click.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go like three in, and then you didn't go any further. And then they wrote us big checks, and then we went to town and built out the software. So it was probably the most bootstrap way you can build a software company and going
Yeah.
after Fortune 500 companies, which is pretty bold, but it can be done. Nobody else is doing it. But it was fun because I got to use the business development strategy side and the sales
Nice.
side and the
Hmm.
marketing side all together to make it happen. And by the time I left the company, by the time that happened, I had about 9% of the accounts were all medical device companies I brought to the table. But you just make it happen. Just
Yeah.
pedal as fast as you can.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we shift gears for a second because let's talk about the emotional calculus of exits, right? When you're that close to the DNA. of a company, and it's time to let go. I guess how do you process that moment?
Uh, gosh. Well, yeah, well, it's the brass ring that everybody wants anyways, right? So you're like you
Yeah,
want
it's
to
like
have the exit, right? When I had my exit from the first company, that was backed by Kleiner Perkins, Sequoia, Oakwood, Goldman Sachs. This is during the dot-com thing. So big companies. I joke in my mastermind, my clients going, that's where I learned the difference between common and preferred stock. I had common. And so, yeah, I got a token prize, but I didn't, it wasn't retirement money, but I still got to go to Europe for 6 weeks and have a condo, had a condo on the beach in Florida at the time. So, and it's in my early 20s. But, for it's a goal that everybody shoots for. The eye opener, I think, for me, from an emotional standpoint, would be I've seen more people take their company public or
Mhm.
sell it and regret it
Hmm.
because there's a lot, because obviously you get the big payday, right? So that's why
Right.
everybody runs to that finish line. Your investors want their money back and all that kind of stuff. But I've seen more deals go south because they usually have you on for 2 years, as a transition to where if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably not going to like the acquiring company after 2 years, like because it's too overbearing, it's too corporate, too much red
Right.
tape, you can't get stuff done, it's not creative. And I've seen more companies get destroyed. A great book is written by Dane Millers, who is one of the founders of Biomet. Now it's
Okay.
Zimmer Biomet. But he wrote a book called Maverick CEO. And I got to meet Dane when I lived in Warsaw. And he's a legend in orthopedics. Good guy, strong believer, collected antiquities, and just an amazing guy. And he would spend time with you, but he was like a major legend in orthopedics because people gravitated to him because of his culture. Like you did well, you
Hmm.
got to come up to like the special room at Biomet and like, smoke cigars and play pool and stuff like that. And he had his own racing team. Like when his company when it got acquired, that culture, no, we went public, sorry. The culture got changed, different board, all that kind of stuff. But his book walks through the early foundations of Biomet, how they literally lived in the manufacturing plant as the few families that started this thing to where he went. But he eventually bought the company, took it private because they destroyed the culture. And then everything took off again, right? So I've seen more companies kind of lose their steam, or at least entrepreneurs and founders,
Yeah.
get that brass ring because it's not all about the money, right? I think in life, we're all programmed to make a bunch of money, retire, then you can enjoy your life. And
Hmm.
it's going, if you can live a lifestyle that's within means, but you're living where you want to live, you're happy with your family, like you can do vacation, like you're comfortable, right? Um,
Right.
if you're constantly chasing that big payday, once you get, and I've had it, once you have that big payday, it lasts for a couple days, and then you're like,
Yeah, it's
all
very
right,
fleeting. It just
super fleeting. And you're
dissipates.
like, okay, now I got to raise the bar higher, right? So now what's the next rung of ladder? So as long as that's not the only thing people are chasing, but for me, it was once the company was done. At the time, I didn't have complete control over the company. I was an executive. I was high enough up to experience it and play a role, but I didn't get to, it wasn't my choice to sell the company.
Hmm.
But it's good. You got to play that game. That's what's investors want their money back. Everybody wins. But for me, it's going, okay, now I get excited because I'm like, now what? What's next? Like, what am I going to take from all these past experiences and how I'm going to apply it to what's next? And that's what I get to do with Purim is we have our hands in, 15, 20 companies at a time. And, I tell people if you have career ADHD, this is a great play because you'll see a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've helped unlock, over 1 billion in term sheets for founders. I mean, I guess what sort of separates the capital raisers who get stuck, from those who actually break through the clutter and the noise.
I think right now that you speak to it, I think in an authoritative position, especially with early stage companies, because I've done a lot of it, especially over the last, several years, it's coachability, right? It's
Mm.
it's one of the things too, is that you raising money. I heard someone talk about this the other day. Raising money is probably one of the most stressful, difficult things that you will do as an entrepreneur. what we try to do with our mastermind is come alongside and get rid of a lot of the guesswork and help as much as we possibly can. And a lot of it is
Hmm.
the due diligence up front. So you pass due diligence because just getting an investor on the table or in queue is hard enough. Then if you blow it through due diligence, now it's depressing and you got to start over again. So how do we go through that process and cast a wider net and bring in the right investors? But I think what separates those that win versus those that do not is persistence because you will kiss a lot of frogs. There are some snake oil salesmen out there. You're
Hmm.
dealing in a world of finance, so you could see a lot of pretenders are out there. Um, but if you go, look, I don't care how long it takes, I will do this. As long as you don't quit, I've seen people that get so close to where they just give up because they're tired of
Yeah.
the 50th rejection. But if you look at all the great entrepreneurs that went out and pitched their ideas, you look at, Steve Jobs, you look at, all these other people that, pitched and pitched and pitched and got rejection. Look what happened, right? So it's going, and that's what we commit to our clients on that side of the business is going to, as long as you don't quit and as long as you show up, this will happen.
Right.
It's just a matter of time. We've had people take 9 months. We've had people do it in 30 days. But are you a team player? Do you take constructive criticism well? And are you persistent? Those are really the major ingredients that I see of those that succeed and those that don't. The ones that we try to weed those guys out before we even
Hmm.
contractually engage folks. Um, but we've met a few people that have the ego of, oh, I'm worth this, or I've done this in the past, so therefore,
Right.
just go do it for me type of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too much of a team sport to have someone, kick it down the road or make you go do it. It's like the CEO, the founders have to be involved, and we act as a force multiplier to make it happen faster, to compress the
Hmm.
timeline, and to take out a lot of the guesswork, which is, the big part of it.
I mean, so if a founder sort of sat across from you today, with a product, a pitch, and a bit of traction, right? Because obviously investors back traction and more importantly, momentum. What's the very first question you'd ask them?
Very first question. Gosh, depends on the venture, but it's going, I guess what do you have in this, right?
Hmm.
So it's not all about money, but when you have your own skin in the game, and you could we coach people and going, well, monetize your hours too, because that's an account, you can do that in accounting. It's like you're if you're consulting with somebody, what would that hourly rate be? So add that up, right? Some people have a lot of sweat equity. Some people have cash. A lot of people have both. But it's going, how dedicated are you to this? Right. I've also
Yeah.
met entrepreneurs that are in five different things at the same time. And I'm going, you have to, if you're going to raise money and you're going to take somebody else's cash and put it into your business, you better be focused on it. Right. It's good
Yeah.
stewardship. So are they focused and how bad do they want this? And
Hmm.
then the other question we ask is it more important for you to have a nameplate, on a door that says CEO,
Right.
or is it more important for you to have a large position on a cap table of a very successful company
Hmm.
and to just kind of let them respond, right? Because those that go, I'm going to be the CEO and blah blah blah, I'm going to take this all the way to ring the bell. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, you don't know what you don't know, because most really successful entrepreneurs surround themselves with smarter people. And heck, man, you're trying to work yourself out of a job. And as long as you're the biggest name on the cap table, or one of the biggest, that's what matters at the end of the day. That's how
Hmm.
you get paid. That's what the exit looks like. But some people have the egos that it's my baby, I built it, it's mine. I'm not open to change. It's
Yeah.
my way or the highway. Like we steer clear of that because that's a disaster waiting to happen.
You can, yeah, I think after a while, you can spot those types of entrepreneurs pretty quickly. And
Hmm.
especially after, I would call it, some expensive experiences that you can kind of pick them out from a lineup. We spoke a little bit, kind of off air just even just around like, family offices. I wanted to maybe kind of cover that because
Mhm.
there's maybe some misnomers around that. I mean, what are some of the biggest sort of misconceptions that founders have when even trying to engage that world?
The biggest misconception is they don't know they exist. I mean, I've been doing venture stuff, most of my career, but it wasn't really till like 2014, 2015 that I knew what a family office was. You hear when you do the early state when you do the stuff that I've been doing, you hear banks and you hear angels and you hear VC. That's it. There's no family office in there.
Hmm.
So when I had an investor that came into one of our deals was a family office, and that's how it was introduced to me. It was, I think, maybe it's more of a European term before it became an American term. I don't know, but it was the first time I heard it. But I think the misconception is they're too out of reach, and they only do $100 million, big deals, or they only back other funds or stuff like that, which is true. Like there's some family offices that don't
Yeah,
do that
fund to
do.
funds.
But what you're seeing, if you look at the reports and the data that's now, pretty prevalent, is they realize they have the money. And most of them, if they're first, especially first generation, they know what it's like to make payroll. They know what difficult it could be. They know the slog. I've seen them to be, for me personally, I enjoy working with them because they're entrepreneurs. So they're easy
Right.
to work with. And they're more of mission impact type stuff of going, hey, I'm not looking for a 5-year turn on my money. Like if this takes 10 years, I don't just don't lose it. Like grow
Hmm.
it, do good things with it. Um, I've seen they've been very entrepreneurial. It's the only place we really hunt. We don't do a lot of stuff in venture, not because I'm opposed to it. It's just when you're doing the seed to A stuff, some VC terms and we've done turnarounds on companies where they were VC backed and getting ready to tank, and we had to act quickly and move some things around and do a restructure and get it done and get it financed by a family office. They didn't get acquired, but there are family offices out there that do like early stage stuff. They just want it vetted. They don't
Hmm.
want to see stuff on mass emails. Like they don't want to be hammered by a bunch of broker dealers, right? It's a relationship, and then it's curated deal flow, so you know what their mandates are, you know what they're looking for, and for us, our mission is we want to serve them, like because we do turnarounds, we do commercialization, we do assessments, we do value, we do all that stuff that's important to their portfolio. Um, but it's also when I can bring curated deal flow to them, they like it. So I think most entrepreneurs that I talk to that are in that C to A
Right.
maybe have heard of a family office, but they don't know where to go. They don't know how to approach them, and they kind of see it's like way out of reach.
Hmm.
And it's well worth the effort to study it, to learn it, to build that network. But it takes time. That's why we
Right.
help in that regard because a lot of these companies don't have that time, that luxury. So we've built those reputations over a long period of time.
Mm. Just want to shift gears for a moment here because I know that you're deeply involved in sort of supporting, care for our veterans. Um, what drew you to that work, and what are we still getting wrong about how we serve that population?
Well, I did a brief stint in the Marines. Um, went through OCS, absolutely loved it. Um, it's and I've had my father-in-law is a Vietnam veteran, Huey pilot, and so knowing what those guys went through, right, what they're exposed to, the toxins
Hmm.
and all that stuff, and then
Hmm.
also being in hospitals, with J&J, and it's not just you, you're in all hospitals, including VAs, right? So, um, and just the lack of care. I mean, it's still a government agency, which is
Hmm.
unfortunate, right? Um, it's just seeing the lack of care, the lack of technology. Like, go to a clinic and get way more advanced technology than if I went to the VA, because the
Hmm.
VA has a lot of has a lot of red tape by design, right? So
Right.
it's difficult. So when you and I've had a privilege of meeting some other veterans from Rangers to SEALs and some severely disabled and going, I know there's ways to regenerate and heal these types of patients. They're just not getting it. And
Hmm.
so what I try to do, and it started with regenerative medicine and regenerating the surface of the eye with a company that I worked with in Miami,
Right.
um, where we launched them into the VA. And they'd never seen this technology before, but it was around for 10 years. It's like, why
Hmm.
is this not in the VA? And so I did the research of going, how do I get into the VA the best and strike a relationship up with a service disabled veteran-owned small business. They're not so
Hmm.
small, they're pretty big. And so since then, we've launched, I don't know, half dozen, maybe a dozen companies, technologies we brought to them. Now they have manufacturing,
Wow.
distribution. So it's going, I'm on the side of really high-end innovation that's here that just needs to get to market. And so
Hmm.
if I can bring that to the VA system, fantastic, right? They want innovation. It's just
Right.
there's a broken conduit that we're trying to build of
Hmm.
going, how do we make sure the VA gets the cool stuff first, like they should, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so we're surrounded with a lot of innovators that have done stuff at the VA from, the former CIO of HSS is an advisor to Purim. The gentleman that had led all innovation in AI for the VA is also a friend, an advisor.
Hmm.
Um, so we all want the same thing. We want super high-end technology to our veterans. And if we can play that role of being that conduit, what a blessing that is. Like,
Yeah.
cool is that, right?
Yeah.
Wound care to pain management to regenerating tissues and organs to, you name it, regenerating the surface of the eye, like
Yeah.
doing cool stuff, detoxing the body, like that's all stuff we're involved in. But
Are you
it's a
looking
huge
at
market.
specific themes or because you're on several boards and you see a lot of pitches, you see a lot of things. I mean, when do you know when someone has it, like it, like the it factor?
So okay, so the question is, how do I know if
How do you
someone
depict that? How do you
is
know it? Because I mean, you have this distribution, right? You have this ecosystem. It's a vibrant ecosystem. You nurture these relationships. You make sure that they're in good standing, and you're essentially lending your credibility to these that are coming through. How do you know when someone that comes through, like, hey, this is it. Like, this is something that's worth me lending my credibility that you've spent 25 plus years building. What are some of those things? How do you analyze? How do you kind of go through the decision matrix of deciding that something has it?
It's a great question. Um, I'll try to give you a concise answer. So, uh, one, it's spending time with them. It's not spending years with them. It's doing due diligence like a normal VC would, right? What are the fundamentals, the message, the marketing, the strategy, the structure, the pricing, the distribution, your team. A lot of it's team. So I always tell
Mm-hmm.
people it's like when you're doing this type of stuff, it's the team first, technology second. Never get those two things backwards because you can see a lot of shiny objects. And
Hmm.
I've got some shiny objects on paper in a filing cabinet that I can light on fire. So I've got equity in some of those. So team first, technology second. The other thing is when I moved back to the U.S. because we were living in the islands, during the whole COVID fiasco. But we moved to Sarasota. I was looking at how do we market Perm, right? And so we had an agencies come in, and I think I told you some of this, where they looked at everything we did from
Yeah.
commercialization to M&A to turn around. They go, like, you should do this, and it was the Capital Mastermind stuff. To teaching people like how I've done this stuff and do it with them, like accelerate this
Yeah.
process. What that thing has become is an engine. It's a due diligence machine and it's a structured process. And so when I can take someone that I'll interview for an hour, right? I'll talk to
Hmm.
them. And, if it's a fit, we'll extend an invitation to work with them. If it's not a fit, I
Right.
point them in a different direction and say, you should talk to so and so. I always try to help out, right?
Hmm.
Because they're spending their time, I'm spending my time. Let's try to help each other. But if we end up wanting to work with them, it fits our realm of, hey, can we help once the money's in? Can we help bring in the money, but can we also help post money? Because that's
Yeah.
our mandate. It's like we want to help you hit those milestones. If we can't, then we're not executing the full power of the organization, right?
Right.
That's how we de-risk these early stage things is making sure you hit your milestones. So a lot of it's revenue, distribution, all that stuff. So, but once we take someone through that process, usually within 30 days, I've had enough interactions with them to really understand their mettle, right? The
Right.
interview person goes down because now they're working it out together. We have milestones that we're hitting. We have documents we're going back and forth on. Are they, and I see if they're coachable. Are they coachable? Do they really have it? Are they hungry? And then we get into the intellectual property, we get into the technology, and then what's happening behind the scenes is I'm talking to my clinical team. So if
Hmm.
it's orthopedics, I'm talking to orthopedic surgeons, right? If it's cardiology, I've got top guys in that space. So we're vetting all that. And then based off what I'm hearing from them, we're either able to bring in more advisors. So we're vetting this thing from every which way, but Sunday, right? But that's when usually within 30 days or less,
Hmm.
that's when we know going, okay, like I'm glad we screened them. I'm glad they're here. But wow, we can take these guys to the VA. We can take them to Japan. We can take them into all these different places that we
Yeah.
have relationships. But I try not to get super excited because that's burned me too many times too early. So meaning,
Right.
oh my gosh, this is the coolest, wow, and because it looks cool and it sounds cool, you've got to stay sober minded in this thing and grounded.
Right.
Not that you got to be negative Nancy and look for all the negatives and be like, this is why I don't want to do the deal. It's going,
Right. Right.
just put a pin in it. That's cool. Let's go into due diligence. Let's start working together. And so we're different than VCs, meaning we're not just doing due diligence to see if we want to do this together. We're going to help you regardless if you're working with
Right.
us in that capacity. You're going to win no matter what. So, but it really allows us to work with them. And this is why we have the family offices coming around us because they know the stuff that we bring them
Hmm.
has been thoroughly vetted and damn near bulletproof. But we do have several, and this is when we did this
Right.
last thing in DC a couple weeks ago with the Maha group, when we had investor summit, they had two days of talks and panels, and I was very fortunate to be part of that thing. But I was sitting in the room going, wow, like I'm blessed because when you see what we're involved in, from
Hmm.
diagnostics to detoxing, getting plastics, microplastics, toxins, mRNA, all this stuff out of your system, then doing targeted therapeutics that are custom, and then wrapping that with AI and quantum, you're going like, wow, like we really have the full, not supply chain, but we have the ecosystem of what
Hmm.
matters. Diagnostics is cool, but I got to figure out how to fix you once I have the diagnostics. Well, we've got that too, right? So we have a portfolio that these investors are looking at going, gosh, I want to invest in these companies because I know they're really disruptive, but I want to use them myself, right? So, but it's through this process of really working with someone that VCs don't do. That's not their model. Ours is. And so that's how we're really that's when we go through that process, that's where we're able to identify the unicorns and then
Right.
we bring in turbo boosters and then it really takes off.
Mm. What's the best way for people to sort of follow your work, the story, Purim Ventures, things that you're doing with the mastermind? Maybe just kind of give everyone, as we kind of come to kind of wrap up here, like how they can follow the story a little bit better.
Sure. Well, I'm not a huge social media guy, but you can find my company at purimventures.com. It's P as in Paul, U as in underdog, R as in Robert, I as in indigo, M as in Mary, and then ventures after that. But purimventures.com. We have a YouTube channel, so a lot of these interviews and case studies that we've done, we have on our YouTube channel. Um, but yeah, people can subscribe and we can put them into our system and then they get, updates on what we do. We try to give a lot of information out as far as, tips and tools and trade secrets, just stuff that just to help people through this process because I've been through it so many
Yeah.
times and I've seen a lot of people just lose their marbles, not because they just don't know what they don't know, right? So how do
Yeah.
we help that? Um, but that's probably the best way is at permventures.com.
Nice. And my last question is just look, if you're, your future grandchildren listening to this one day, I guess what's the lesson that you'd want them to take away from your story?
God has a plan. It's never your timing. It's always his timing. It's always better with his timing. We just have to be patient. And I've lacked patience, so that could be a struggle. But I honestly feel where I'm at now after doing this for almost 30 years, doing, life sciences, doing early stage, high tech, because we've done fintech and we've done some other things. It's where I'm excited about the future, for my grandkids, is I think this academic institution that we're all used to, you know,
Hmm.
where I went to college, most people go to college, right? I think that's fading away. I
Mm,
think it's for graduate level stuff. What I'm excited about is this mentoring, right? Is going when I can go take a master class and sit at the feet of someone that's done it
that's right.
and learn what would normally take you 4 to 6 years to learn in college, if that, but you could learn it in a period of a couple weeks. That's what I've done with my oldest daughter. I want to do it with my youngest daughter, but my oldest
Hmm.
daughter, Naraya, works for Perm. She also has her own marketing agency company, and she's also an investor in. She has her own Amazon store, but she's an investor in a group, but she's making money on that. So she's
Hmm.
21 and she's got three sources of income. She lives in St. Kitts. She's on her way to Anguilla right now to visit some friends. So it's by and what I did is I put her at the feet of some people that I know who are excellent at mentoring young women in trading online
That's
and
right.
then marketing and then online sales, like how to sell someone over Zoom. Like, so I had her learn with other people. And then she still sits through every mastermind that we do. So the cool thing about that is that she's absorbed this information without even knowing about it.
That's right.
And now she's a deadly entrepreneur at 21. So it's going, I'm optimistic that this next generation is going to do these mini internships and learn from these experts that have done this and had all the mistakes and had all the heartaches so they could teach you the best in class.
Hmm.
That's where I think this next generation of entrepreneurs and the educated will be big. So I guess, speaking to your question, find mentors, find good people that you can learn from, that you can absorb the information that they've already gone through and save yourself, decades of learning it the hard
Yeah,
way.
years. Yeah, to me, it's you're doing your tours of duty, as you mentioned, sort of in the military analogy. But they're also like way back when you had apprentices, you had apprenticeships. You were working as an apprentice to someone that was a master of their craft. And for those that have tuned in today, I mean, Greg, you dropped a lot of golden nuggets today. This is really, really, really spectacular. If there's one thing that I hope someone who's listening to this or watching this took away, it's that capital isn't about money. It's about alignment. And
Mm,
building a company isn't about chasing the perfect pitch deck. It's about conviction. It's about timing. And it's around really surrounding yourself with people who know how to move when the stakes are real. And,
mm,
you know, Greg, it just seems to me like, you don't just fund ideas. Like what you're doing is you're teaching founders, how to sharpen their thinking, own the story, right? Because the most important story isn't the one that you tell others, it's the one that you tell yourself, and scaling with purpose. So if today's conversation, moved you or challenged you or even just made you think differently, then please, share this episode, share this conversation, whether it's with one person or whether it's with your whole entire network. And if there is a topic that you want us to explore or a leader that you would like to hear from, drop me a note, even leave a comment because I read them and I listen and we take action. This platform isn't just about content, it's about community, and a community is an interactive community. So thanks for listening. Keep building with purpose, and we'll see you on the next time around on the Advancing Healthcare Innovation Show. Thanks for joining, Greg.
Thank you. Appreciate it.